Mesechta Makos, Daf Yutes Amud Aleph. We're starting from the last line on Yudches Amud Beis. Amar Rava, Bar Ada Amar Rab Yitzchak. Rava Bar Ada said in the name of Rab Yitzchak, Bikurim. You know, the Bikurim are the fruits, which the 7 minim, which the soul is praised with.
Where's it tested? It's tested on base.
You don't have it. It's not. No, that's Seita. It's Gemara Makos. So he says, "Ba'ibas mechayven aleim." Yeah. So Rava Bar Ada said in the name of Rab Yitzchak, the gate to be kurim are the fruits which submit, which has the soul is praised with. From when do they get punished for eating the bikurim? Azor who eats the bikurim? What? Yes. From when? I'm saying from when? Who are we talking about? Punished means misa. Meimasa meaning when does Azor who eats from bikurim is chay misa? Yeah, the bikurim has to go to the kahanim.
But he has to take off the bikurim first to go to
Yeah, but from when does it fall into the gather of the kedusha of bikurim? So he says like this: Meshiyiru pnei habayis. Once it enters the Azara. In fact, the Yimara Kaman, like whom was this didn't says Yimara Haitana, like the sheet of this Tana. The Tanya that we learned in the Brais Rabbi Lezer Oima, Bikurim, Miktsas Machutz, Miktsas Mifnim. Bikurim that some of it was placed in the Azara, at the entrance of the Azara, and somewhere outside of the Mechitza of the Azara. Shabachutz, Harein Kechulin, Lechol Devrein. Those fruits that are outside the mechitza of the Azara has a din chulin. The person who the first ripened fruits who came to the Beis Hamikdash and put it. Some went into the Azara. Yeah. So those that were outside the Azara don't have the kedusha bikurim. But the b'shebefnim, but those fruits that went inside the Azara, they hang kehekdesh chol devreim, has a din like hekdesh according to everybody. That means that it has the kedusha bikurim as a din like truma, which is called kodesh, and that's it. If Azar eats it, it's going to be chai misa.
If a guy brings bikurim, that means you look at it as one entity, or whatever he brings in.
No. Soon we're going to get to that at the end of today's blog. Amar Rav Sheshes, bikurim. Rav Sheshes says, "Benegay to the mitzvah bikurim." When does it fall into the kedusha? Hanocha. You have to place it. The chalais. Okay, likes the chalais. Good. The chalais of the bikurim. Okay, is when you place it in front of the mizbeach. When you placed it and put it down in front of the mizbeach, that's when the kedusha was the bikurim. It does. If there was no hanocha, it's ma'akeves by him. What does that mean? It's still the din of bikurim hasn't been fulfilled fully till you place it right in front of the mizbeach. But kriya, there's also the of pashas, reading the pashas of bikurim. Says when it comes to pasha, the reading of the pasha bikurim is not a yikol.
It's a whole procedure.
Yeah. You know? But he's saying that even if they didn't read the pasha of bikurim, as long as you placed it in front of his beit, that's enough to be mekayim the mitzvah bikurim. Yeah. And the reading of the pasha, even though he didn't read it, that's not going to be ma'akif from the mitzvah bikurim. Said the Gemara Kaman, like whom was this Hira said? Says the Gemara Tana, like the sheet of this Tana. The Tanya that we learned in the Braisa. Rabbi Yosi Oima. Shloisha Dvarim Mishum Shloisha Zkenim. There were 3 dinim that were said through 3 different Zkenim, and amongst them was Rabbi Yishmael Oima. Rabbi Yishmael said one of these dinim, these Hirais. Yochel, I would have thought, the Braisa Shedim Esman Hazeh B'Yerushalayim Yechlanu. I would have thought, even today's days after the Churban of Beis Hamikdash, maybe the mitzvah still has to be performed. You have to bring up the Maisa Sheni into Yerushalayim. Says Gemara V'Dinhu, l'chaydik, you prove it that we don't do so.
But Maisa Sheni and Bikurim are 2 different mitzvahs.
We're not talking about Maisa Sheni, Bikurim. We're talking about Maisa Sheni. We're going to get to Bikurim. So he says V'Dinhu, l'chaydik, you can prove that I can prove to you that today you don't fulfill the mitzvah Maisa Sheni. Where are we going to learn it from? In the Dvar Malchus, you have it. Says Gemara, where could you learn it out from? B'chayr. The din is by B'chayr. Firstborn goes to Kahanim. B'chayr to'un havas mokim. B'chayr has to be brought up to Yerushalayim and be eaten there. U'maisa Sheni to'un havas mokim. B'chayr is the firstborn of first Petach HaMeiri. Yeah, so any firstborn goes to B'chayr. He brings it, he has to bring it to Yerushalayim. There, by the behemoths, they had to bring it to Yerushalayim. The B'chayr. They were mechuyev to bring it to Yerushalayim and eat it there.
Yeah.
U'maisa sheni ton avos hamakim. And similarly, maisa sheni cannot be eaten outside the chayma of Yerushalayim. Has to be broadside. It has to be inside the chayma to be able to eat it. Ma b'chei einay ela b'fnei habayis. Just like by b'chei, it's not eaten only when the Beis Hamikdash was around, right?
No, you don't mean brought.
It had to be brought, but it had to be in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. When the Beis Hamikdash has to be, the b'chei is eaten by the Kahanim only when it pnei habayis. It was b'fnei habayis. Where was that? When the Beis Hamikdash was mekuyim. So that's when, but not today. Af ma'isa the sheni also eina ela b'fnei habayis. It has to be b'fnei habayis. What meaning in the Chaim of Yerushalayim we could see that we usually say in Yerushalayim you could see the Beis Hamikdash. So he says, but we have a picha. Ma lebchei, we can't learn it out from b'chei. The reason why b'chei we're going to say is not noyig in the time of the Churban, because there shekein ton matan domim ve'murim legam mizbeach. You actually need not just you need the Beis Hamikdash to be around. You need the mizbeach. You have to spray the blood. You have to burn the fats on the mizbeach, and therefore when there's no mizbeach, you can't be makiv the blood and its fats, and therefore you cannot eat it. Mashenkin Maisa Sheni that doesn't have all these requirements. Maybe you have to bring it up to Yerushalayim to be able to eat the Maisa Sheni. Even now, says the Gemara, no, Bikurim Yechichu. Bikurim will disprove it. Let me give my Zag the Gemara Bikurim Yechichu. Really, I can bring you a rai from Bikurim.
Why?
Because it doesn't need the giving of the blood. It doesn't need the mizbeach. There's no hakrovas. A murim by bikurim becomes the fruit. Is the new fruits that became ripened. And just like by bikurim, what do we say? It's not eaten only in the time when the Beis Hamikdash was existed. So to my Sheni says, what? Ma the bikurim she came to the manacha. By bikurim, it does need the mizbeach. We said that you have to put it down. You have to place it down in front of the mizbeach. If you have these pictures when you learn the Chumash, I would show the boys then, when I taught 8th grade. There's a picture how the guy brings it down and places it in front of his bayach. The Kohen puts it right in front of his bayach. Talmud Leina. Therefore the pasuk comes to tell us, so you can't learn it out. You have no proof either way. Why don't you have proof? Because by Bikurim, you say you need a hanacha, and by Maisa, you don't need the mizbeach at all. So how do you know by Maisa Sheni that there's no mitzvah Maisa Sheni to bring it up to Yerushalayim today's days in the Zman HaChurban? After you want to Talmud Loim, we learn it out from a pasuk. It says, "V'achalta lefnei Hashem alekecha." You shall eat before God your God, b'makma sheyivcha, in the place which He will choose, l'shak and shmei sham, to rest His name. So you see in the pasuk it says b'chein and it says Maisa, makish Maisa leb'chein. We make a hekish. Maisa to b'chei, ma b'chei in ela lefnei habayis. Just like b'chei was only noyig in the time when the Beis Hamikdash was around, and not today's days. Af maisa in ela lefnei habayis. So we learn now from the Hekesh that Maisa Sheni after the Churban, there's no mitzvah of bringing it to Yerushalayim to be able to eat it. So as the Gemara B'Im Isa, now if Rabbi Yishmael holds that the reading of Pashas Bikurim is ma'akiv the mitzvah of Bikurim, so why did you only ask that Bikurim is different than Maisa Sheni? Because Bikurim, you have to put it down in front of Mizbeach. You should have said you have to read the Pashas also. He's saying the only way we slugged up that we cannot learn out Maisa Sheni, that we cannot compare Maisa Sheni to Bikurim, because Bikurim Sichen Hanocha. It has to be, the Kohen puts it down in front of the Mizbeach. That's by Bikurim, and by Maisa Sheni there's no such Inyan. Says you could have asked me even more so. By Bikurim there is the Inyan of you have to read the Pashas HaBikurim. So if it's as stringent as the Hanocha that it could be Ma'akiv, the mitzvah Bikurim, you should have asked from that by Bikurim, Lifrich, like this, Mala Bikurim, Shekentun and Kriya, Vehanocha. Not just Hanocha, but also part of the Kasha should have been that it's different, the Maisa Sheni, that it needs the reading of the Pashas.
What's if it's 1 point or 2 points?
It makes it stronger. You bring out every point that you slug up. And Ravashi says, even though that the Kriya is not going to be Ma'akiv, you have no proof it's Ma'akiv. It doesn't have to be Ma'akiv. You can still slug up that Bikurim is different than Maisa Sheni. Even if it's not Ma'akiv. Mitzvah mi leika, but to read the Pashas of Bikurim Isn't there a mitzvah? Just the mere fact that there's a mitzvah by Bikurim to read the Pashas makes it different than Ma'aser Sheni. Leimel mitzvah, say that it's a mitzvah lifrich and slug it up. So you have no raya that the Kriyas HaPasha is ma'akev the mitzvah Bikurim. Allah Ravashi, only Ravashi says, so we have to understand why Taka. If this could have been part of the Kasha, why didn't he mention that Bikurim has also the reading of the Pashas versus Ma'aser Sheni doesn't have it? You want to keep in the Ika Bikuri HaGer. Since there is a case where a Ger would be Bikurim, and the Boy Lamema, and in the Kriyas HaPasha, he wouldn't be able to say, Ani Asher Nishba Hashem Laveseinu. Laveseinu? I can't nicht sagen Laveseinu, Laveseinu. And so since he can't say it, he doesn't mean the Pasha. So since there's a case where between in the Inyan of Bikurim where one doesn't mean the Pasha, it's late psikale. Therefore, he didn't. It's not like a kavudike zachen, a kavudike mitzvah by element. So therefore, he didn't want to use that as part of the kasha. Hanoch is by element. You have to place in front of his face. This is by even by a gay. What do you have to learn out from a hekish? That Ma'aser Sheni is similar to Bechayr, and just like Bechayr, there's no mitzvah Bechayr in the time of the Churban, so to Ma'aser Sheni. Well, let the Dina learn it out from a svara. He could have said that what did you say? You said, let us learn it out first. Originally, you said, let us learn it out from Bikurim. We started off, first we started off. Let us learn it out from Bikurim. So we said we can't learn. Let us learn it out from Bechayr. So we said we can't learn it out from Bechayr. Ma'aser Sheni from Bechayr because Bechayr has a chumrah that you have to sacrifice the fats, the emudim, right, and you have to spray the blood on the mizbeach. Versus Ma'aser Sheni not. Says so it doesn't have matan domim. You don't have the spraying of the blood. So Bechayr will prove it. So he says Bechayr has a chumrah. What's the chumrah? That the Bechayr. I'm sorry. Bikurim has a chumrah that it needs the hanocha by the mizbeach. So you see, Sai hanocha is not the real reason because Bechayr doesn't have it, and Sai matan domin and burning the emurim, the fats on the mizbeach, is not a reason that it shouldn't be performed today's days because Bikurim doesn't have that. So either one is not a real reason. So let us learn out, just like by those two, the reasoning is not a real reason, and we're not mekayim it. The mitzvah is not applicable during the churban. So too, Ma'aser Sheni, we should have learned out with a svara. Says nevertheless, we could slug it up. We could slug up this whole loydei zekrei the side that they all have in common. Shekein yesh bahem tzad mizbeach. Side by Bikurim, side by Bechayr, it needs the mizbeach. By Bechayr, it needs the mizbeach because of matan domim and the emurim. By Bikurim, you need the mizbeach because the peiros have to be placed by the mizbeach. By the mizbeach. So they both need the mizbeach versus Ma'aser Sheni doesn't. So I wouldn't be able to learn it out that it should have the same thing, that it's not applicable in the churban, in the time of the churban, because it doesn't need a mizbeach. So maybe Ma'aser Sheni has to be brought up to Yerushalayim even during the churban. That's why we needed the hekish. So the Yemada, before we said that it says Bechayr and Ma'aser in the same pasuk, and we learn now Ma'aser Sheni from Bechayr. In fact, the Yemada Makos, what did Rabbi Yishmael think that he said? Achilas Bechayr b'zman hazeh, that's a vaday. Because Ma'aser Sheni was a suffix, so we're going to learn out Ma'aser Sheni from Bechayr. What makes you so sure that Bechayr was a sure thing, b'zman hazeh, is not noyeg, versus Ma'aser Sheni it wasn't so sure? Why was Bechayr more fazichet? You want to learn out Ma'aser Sheni from Bechayr, just like Bechayr, b'zman hazeh, it's not noyeg.
So you want to say Ma'aser Sheni is also not noyeg?
What makes you so sure about Bechayr, the din of Bechayr, more than Ma'aser Sheni?
Same thing, should be the same thing.
Who says maybe it's the same suffix by both? Says Gemara, if you hold Kiddush Yeshena, Kitchel Shaita Kitchel Lava. There's an Indian that was something that's, but like the Beis Hamikdash was Niskadish, right? It's not only for now, but it's also for the future. Its place is going to be a Kaddish even after the Churban. So Memela is Shaita by Ma'aser Sheni was since the Makom Hamikdash by Ma'aser Sheni the Makom Hamikdash stayed in its holiness even today. Kitchel Love, he was saying. So the Yerushalayim is considered as Lifnei Hashem Elokecha. So that's why you can eat Ma'aser Sheni. You should bring it up.
You should look maybe before.
Maybe no, we should say Ma'aser Sheni. Maybe not for Bechai. Ma'aser Sheni, since it's Kitchel Love, so we should say it's applicable today's day in Yerushalayim. Or maybe since the walls of the Yerushalayim was destroyed, so it's no more considered as Lefnei Hashem Elokecha. Or we could say Afilu B'Chayr Nami, even B'Chayr should be sacrificed and be eaten today, because if the Kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash you're going to say is Kayemes, even today, so you should be marking it for today's days as well. No, but you say Kitchel Shaita, Kitchel Lava, even when the Beis Hamikdash is not here, even after the Churban, the Kedusha should remain. Therefore, by B'Chayr should also be today. What makes you so sure B'Chayr is only Bizman Beis Hamikdash Kaim? The same suffix you had by Ma'aser Sheni, you should have by B'Chayr.
That you don't have to be
Either you have to, if you say Kitchel Shaita, Kitchel Lava, so then it should be applicable to both. And if you say it's only Kitchel Shaita, not Las Lava, it shouldn't be applicable to neither. What makes you say for sure B'Chayr more than Ma'aser Sheni? It's the same suffix. And I already said it outside. If you're going to say it's only for now and not for the future, I feel the B'Chayr Nami to buy. By B'Chayr, you could also ask the same Shaila. He gives you the Shaila, but what does that mean? That, let's say, before the Beis Hamikdash was existing, right? Before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, he sprayed the blood, right? He sprayed the blood and burned the fats, but he didn't get a chance to eat the basar till the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So could he eat it? Could he eat the meat or not?
Later on.
Right. It was right then. Before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, he sprayed the blood. He did everything he had to. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Could he eat the meat?
The Beis Hamikdash is burning.
Huh? After
sounds
okay, he's asking such a child.
It's theoretical aspirations over here.
Okay, so he says.
It's not a historical question.
No, he says it's a hypothetical one.
Yeah,
So the Gemara is asking, why wasn't Rabbi Yishmael Mesupik if you say Kitcha? I'm sorry, Kitcha l'shaita, Kitcha l'asalavi, or not? I mean, Avinu lo'elam kasava, Kitcha l'shaita, but Kitcha l'asalavi. Really, everybody holds that it was only for then, for the time when the Beis Hamikdash was around, and not in the asalavi. And Rabbi Yishmael is talking about a specific case. Bebecheish and his igdami. By a bechei that the blood was sprayed and the fats was burned. Koidem chumra abayis. It happened before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Then mechanim abayis. And then the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. V'adaim sori b'kayim. The Kahanim didn't get a chance to eat it. So,
Take it home and eat it.
so what's going to be the halach?
They're throwing,
So
they're throwing swords, they're throwing daggers.
So
Hey!
why for sure aren't you? Why is it a zikr azach that you cannot eat the basar, right? Because just like by the dam, it says it's in the same pasuk. Ma domai b'mizbeach. Just like the blood is can only be sprayed when there's a mizbeach. So apsare, since damai and psari are in the same pasuk, could only be eaten when there is a b'mizbeach, when there's a mizbeach. Now, once you already came to a conclusion by Bechayr, it's a short thing. By Bechayr there was a limud to tell us that even after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, you're not going to be able to perform and eat the basa of the Bechayr, because we learned it out basa from the dam of Bechayr. And once we know by Bechayr for sure you're not allowed to eat it once the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, umakish ma'aseh leBechayr. Now, Ma'aser and Bechayr are written in the same pasuk, so we'll learn out Ma'aser from Bechayr.
If you don't bring
That you, Bisman Hazeh, you don't have to bring up the Ma'aser Shein to Yerushalayim. In fact, we know that if Lamashal, I'll give you the case over here. Basar, how do we know Basar is Asa? Because it was a limud from a Hekesh. You compared it to Dam. There's a rule in Hegdish, if in Hegdish, by Hegdish, the laws of Hegdish, that if you learned out a din of Hegdish through a Hekesh, like Basar, we learned out the din is not Noyed. After the Churban, from where do we learn it out? From a Hekesh, from Dam, it cannot go ahead and teach us from Maisa Sheni. That's the rule. It can't teach somewhere else. So Maisa Dagan Chulanheit. So he learns that it could, if it's teaching something that's not Hegdish, something that's not Hegdish could be learned out from something that was learned out from a Hekesh. And since Maisa is Sheni, is Chulin, is not Hegdish, so it could be learned out from Basar of the Chayr. Even though Basar was learned out from Hekesh.
Why is Master Sheni not Hekdesh?
Oh, that's what he says. We'll get to that. The others ask on the bottom. In fact, you might have
Wherever it is, but
he says it's not Hekdesh because everybody can eat. No, but he didn't call it Hekdesh anyway. But it doesn't. It's not that level of Hekdesh that he's referring to. This that you can't learn out from the Hekesh.
Is that touching his back?
Yes. So you want to this is only understood according to Basar Lamed Azlina, that we go after the thing that was learned from the Hekesh. But if you're saying which one do you look at the one that's being learned out, meaning Maisa Sheni, or you're looking at the Malamed teaching the din for Maisa Sheni, which is Psare. Which is, where does the klal apply that something that's learned out from a Hekesh cannot teach us for another din? Is it, do you look at, which one do you look at the Malamed or the Ovid? Are you looking on the one that's teaching? That's the rule is applying. Or on the student, you want to use that, yeah? Or on the student. So he says, but according to Mandama, that it says it goes on the Malamed is Hegdish, the Psari is Hegdish. So if Psari is learned out from a Hekesh, how could it teach us from Maisa Sheni? I don't care, Maisa Sheni is Chulin, but the Psari from a Hekesh from Dam. So Psari is the Malamed, and they say the Klal is the Malamed is teaching us for Maisa Sheni to have the same
Well,
day.
it's really the Lamud, from Dam.
The Lamud is the Maisa Sheni. Yeah, it's a Lamud from the Hekesh. But now, the next one.
Now it became a
Malamed. Yes.
You're a good student, you become a Malamed.
that's right.
Right.
You graduate, yeah.
Okay, so he's asking, according to Mandiyama, that the rule that you can learn out from a Hekesh is going on the Malamed, and here the Malamed is Psari of B'chayr, is Kodesh Kachim Ezbeich, like I'll use the Lashon of the rabbi over here. Bas Malamed, that's Lina, Ma'ik Lamema, what are you going to say now? And the Gemara, Dam Ubasa Chada Milsehi. He says it's not really a Hekesh that you're learning Basa from Dam. It's not a true Hekesh, it's both one from the same carbon. He uses the Dam Abchayr, and the Basa is Nechshav L'shnei Chalakim Shel Oisei carbon. He says it's two parts of the same
Is
carbon.
this bus of the Emurim? Or is it the...
No, the Emurim is burnt. He's talking about the Basa that you can eat, the Basa B'chayr that you can eat. He says the Basa and the Dam is two parts of the same B'chayr.
It's not Emurim.
No, Emurim is fats.
No, but he wants to say that
Dam and the Basa that you can
I
eat
was
is from the same
clarifying
carbon.
No, but you're learning
Basa from Dam. Right, but he's saying it's Dam and Basa. You
When
could
you learn Basa from Dam, you mean Dam and Emurim with one thing?
no.
No, what?
Just
Dam.
leaves out the
He leaves out Emurim. Emurim is a separate thing. It has to be burnt on the mizbech. We're talking about the Basa that you can eat and the Dam that you spray.
Yeah.
So the Dam that you spray, right, is only when there's a mizbech. If there's no mizbech, you can't. There's no base of English. There's no Dam. So that's true, but we're not talking about the Emurim. We're talking about the Basa of a Zar eating the Basa of a Chayr that'll be Chai Malkus. We're talking about. Okay, Zakt Yimada Kachi Kadash. We learned in the Mishnah if he eats Kachi Kadash outside the curtains and Kachim Kalu and Maisa Sheni outside the walls. Said Yimada, what are you coming to teach us about Maisa Sheni outside the walls? Tanina Chadazimna. We already learned this in the first Mishnah on Yud Gimel. Maisa Sheni beHekdesh Loi Nivdu. We learned the case of Maisa Sheni and Hekdesh that wasn't redeemed. It's a mitzvah to eat it in Yerushalayim. So when it says
What Haggish wasn't redeemed? What kind of...
You didn't redeem the Hagdish outside Yerushalayim and bring the money to Yerushalayim to be able to eat it.
Actually, the same thing.
Ma'aser Sheni is... I'm sorry, Ma'aser Sheni. Ma'aser Sheni. A Hagdish is a separate...
It's one thing then.
Yeah, it's similar, but it's not... Here, well, let's talk about Ma'aser Sheni. Ma'aser Sheni, we already learned that eating outside the Chem, Yechayev. What is he coming to teach us again? Kachim Kedoshim outside the Kloyim, Kachim Kal, Ma'aser Sheni chutz l'chayma. It says Ma'aser Sheni, if you ate it outside the walls of Yerushalayim, Yechayev Malchus. We already learned this in the first Mishnah. Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Chanina Seifa. This Mishnah, on the last Mishnah, meaning on Yud Zay, not Yud Gimel. The Ma'aser Sheni Torah, the Gavra Torah. It's talking about side the Chefza and side the Gavra was Torah. Side the Ma'aser, the Ma'aser Sheni was Torah, and side the Gavra was Torah. And he ate it chutz l'chayim. The Gavra achel chutz l'chayim, and he ate it outside. So there he gets Malchus. Reisha, the one on Daf Yud Gimel, is talking about the Ma'aser Sheni Tamei. And the person was Torah, or the reverse, or the Gavri Tamei, the person was Tamei, but the Ma'aser Sheni was Torah.
He says both of it.
Yeah, but you have to say when it says Ma'aser Sheni Tamei, the Adam Torah, the Gavri Tamei, right? The Adam Tamei, Ma'aser Sheni Torah. So he says that these two cases. It's in Rashi. The Ka'achal Levi Yerushalayim. He brings down the Rashi. He says it's Rashi. The Ka'achal Levi Yerushalayim. And he says, and he eats it in Yerushalayim. Now we're not talking about Chutz L'Chayma. In Yerushalayim, he's going to get Malchus if he was Torah and the Chefza and the Ma'aser Sheni was Tamei, or the reverse. How do we know that one is Chaim Malchus for eating Ma'aser Sheni? That's Tamei. And for the Gemara, the Tanya that we learned in the Braisa, Rabbi Shimon says, by the Pasha of Vidui Maisa, which was done on the 3rd and the 6th year, that it says that you had to get rid of all the Maisas, and all the Ma'aser Sheni that was in your shus. You say the Biur, the Lashon Biur, and he finishes it at the 6th day of Pesach in the 4th year, and in the 7th year. And what? And he said he has to say these words of Vidui Maisa. Yeah. Says the Gemara, what happened over here? So he says, Loi bi'artim imenu b'tamei. So when he says that, he gets rid of it. He says, when I got rid of it, I didn't burn the Ma'aser Sheni in a fire for any personal needs. Let's say bishul or for fire. Bein shani tamei v'hu toreh, bein shani toreh v'hu tamei. He says all circumstances he didn't use it. So he's telling you he was tamei. I'm sorry. He was tamei, and the object that he was, the mice itself was Torah. So you see the fetish about a person being tamei, and the zachas Torah, that you get malchus. You're not allowed to do it unless you're not allowed to do it. So it says, where is there warning for a person for eating a betuma, meaning the.
It's not talking about eating, right?
No. Like there he says he didn't burn the Ma'aser Sheni in a fire for cooking or for fire to warm the house. Okay? So how do you know about Achila? What?
What's the issue?
V'loi bi'arti mimenu b'tamei. No, that's what he has to say in the Pasha of Vidui. But if he did burn it for his personal needs, then he's Chaim Malchus. Says the Gemara, but where is it warning about eating? Says the Gemara, the Isa of Achila Ma'aser Sheni b'tumas haguf, we find Behedjiksiv. It says openly, Nefesh hashetiga boy, a soul that will touch one of the tumes, the Tama Aref, and he'll be tummy till the evening. Now the only one that's tummy till the evening is by kachim. You cannot eat. You have to wait till the sun goes down. That's the only time. But it says there, just be to yourself, and you can eat right away. Which is a case that you hear. Which is my sheni, because it says the only one that can eat right after being tevel himself is only Ma'aser Sheni. Any other kachim, you have to wait till ba'erev. You have to wait till the evening. So when it says in the pasuk Barach, it says p'sari b'mayim, and then he can eat it, it's obviously referring to Ma'aser Sheni. So you see, it says you're not allowed to eat Maisa Sheni. It says v'lo yochel as a kosher. So you see, and the person is tamei. The mice is Torah, but the person is tamei, and he has to be just table himself, and then he can eat it right away. So you see, he's talking about the isa of a person who's tamei eating Maisa Sheni. We see befeidish. Says okay, you brought me a case of the man being tamei, but the chefza being Torah. In fact, how do we know a case where the mice itself is tamei and the person is tahir? That is chiyuv malchus, that a person who's tahir is not allowed to eat ma'aser sheni, which is tamei.
So you can't do anything with it. What can you do with it?
But what do you know if you eat it, you have chiyuv malchus? It says the chsiv or Talmud Lema. It says lo yisuch alach b'sharecha ma'aser digancha. It says lo yisuch alach b'sharecha by ma'aser. Ulahalan noima by b'chei balmum. It says b'sharecha teichlenu hatam v'ator yachlo. So you make a shava b'sharecha. And we learned in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yishmael in the Braisa, afilu tamei b'Torah eichlin b'kaina achas. Even if you have somebody who's tamei and somebody who's tired, they can eat from the same plate of the basa of abachei, which is malmum. And we're not concerned for the tuma, meaning the tamei is going to touch the basa. Now the basa is going to become tamei, and the tired is eating from that basa also.
So why is it chesed?
Because it's about mum. The b'chei was about mum, so it's not a problem. But we're coming achmana, and the Torah says that by ma'aser sheni about bisharecha lo yisuch alach b'sharecha. They're not allowed to eat. What's the case of bisharecha that we're making a shava? The case of bisharecha by b'chei was the tummy and the Torah was sitting together, and the meat became tummy. That you're allowed. So when it says lo yisuch, you're not allowed to eat b'sharach, it's talking about the same case. Hey, tomei the sharala gabe Torah hasam, just like over there when they were matir, a tamei and a Torah to sit together, and even though the basa became tamei through the tamei touching the basa, hacha here in the gate of ma'aser sheni when it says loy, what was the lashon loy yisuch alecha b'sharecha. B'sharecha is talking about where the tamei and the Torah were sitting together. And the tummy was matame the ma'aser sheni, and the Torah ate from it. So then he's chaymal. He says lo yisuchal. So you cannot. You could. You learn out from b'sharecha that if the ma'aser sheni is tummy, you're not allowed to eat it. It says lo yisuchal lecha b'sharecha, right? B'sharecha has to be told. That's by b'chei. So we learned b'sharecha is talking about tamei v'Torah yachdav. That's what we said b'sharecha by b'chei, and we learned that b'sharecha by when it says lo yisuch lecha b'sharecha is the same case tamei v'Torah yachdav, which makes the ma'aser sheni tamei because the tamei is eating from that ma'aser sheni. So if the Torah will eat from it, it says lo yisuch lecha b'sharecha. So that's where you learn.
Otherwise, you would learn it out from
No, that's how you learn out that if the chefza, the ma'aser sheni itself is tamei, it says lo yisuch lecha b'sharecha, that you're not allowed to eat it. Okay. In fact, you want to not learn the baptiyo. From where do we learn out that you can redeem ma'aser sheni, which is tamei, even inside Yerushalayim? Normally, inside Yerushalayim, you cannot redeem anything. And you want the Rabbi Loza said, "V'nai and ma'aser sheni shenit." From where do we know ma'aser sheni that became tamei? Shepaid noisei afilu b'Yerushalayim, that you could be paid in Yerushalayim. And you want to Talmud Lema, it says in the pasuk, "Kiloi sucha l'seisei." The literal translation means because you can't carry it, it's so heavy. So in the Satva Kesef, so you exchange it for money and you bring the money to Yerushalayim. So he teaches ve'ein se'eis elachila. Se'eis means that it's food that you cannot eat. Shanama, like it says, when the brothers of Yosef came to Mitzrayim, and he sat them by the table, it says vayisa mases meispanov. Yosef took portions from the table, and he sent it away with the brothers. So seis means food. So when it says lo yisuch seis, it means you cannot eat. Why can't you eat it? Because it's tamei. So it's kesef, and the Torah says you could redeem it for money. So lo yisuch seis, he's talking about in Yerushalayim. He couldn't eat it, and he can redeem it with money. Amar Abibi, Amar Abasi. But Bibi said the name of Abasi, another halacha that we learn out from Seisei. From where do we learn out that even though you're steps away from the Chayma of Yerushalayim, that you can redeem those fruits if it's heavy, and even though it's a couple of steps, you can redeem it and take the money to
You
Yerushalayim.
can redeem it in Yerushalayim, it's kosher outside.
Huh? No, now we're talking about a different case. A new din from the Seisei. How do we know even if he's just steps away from the Chem of Yerushalayim, he could still redeem it? So it says, "Shenama kiloi suchas Seisei." That even one, so now we have a kasha. How can he learn out from Seisei? So the chiddush that even if you steps away from the Chem of Yerushalayim, you can redeem it. If we said Seisei is telling like suchas Seisei is going on Tomei Dika food that you can redeem it in Yerushalayim. And the Gemara,
Isn't that a kosher game? You can do it outside?
no, it's two separate things. No,
You can redeem it
In-
inside Yerushalayim. Why can't you redeem it outside Yerushalayim?
no, but we're saying it's just it's away. It's a big chiddush. He only steps away.
So what, they should
And
bring
it's
it
so
in
close.
and then redeem it.
It's maybe you should bring it in and eat it there. Why could he redeem it? So that's the chiddush. So in fact, you how many boyle like the Rebbe that the word Eisei is needed for if the food was tamei that you can redeem it inside the shleim. Says Gemara, if it's only teaching us that in Cain, let me he should have said openly that he cannot eat it. From this that it
Well,
says
understand that it's the tamei.
that it's tamei. Why are you saying Seis in ambiguous lashon? Obviously, to teach us another din. In fact, maybe it only comes to teach us this chiddush that if he only steps away from the Chem Yerushalayim, that you can redeem it. How do you know it's going on tamei the kafur? So the Gemara in Cain, if so. It should have said, he says Litloi is in Aramish. Should have said Leisucha Lekachtoi. Why does he say, he should have said Leisucha, he shouldn't have said say, he should have said Leisucha Lekachas. My say, Shmami not Tarte. Why they use a ambiguous lashon say to teach us two dinim.
What is who didn't?
Sai, if the Ma'aseh Sheni became Tamei, you can redeem it inside Yerushalayim, and Sai, if he only steps away from the Chema, you can redeem it right there. Yosef Rav Chanim Rav Hishai, we come in Boyele. Rav Chanim Rav Hishai was asked the Shaila, Apiskal Yerushalayim Ma'u. What's if he's standing by the entrance of Yerushalayim, and the Ma'aseh Sheni Torah is in his hand? Says the Gemara, Pshita, Hu Bachutz Masar. For sure, if he's standing outside the walls of Yerushalayim, and the food is inside the walls of Yerushalayim, Klatu mechitza, the mechitza already made it holy. So even though he's outside, it's still holy. Who bifnim masoi
Where's the
bachutz?
food? The food is with him.
Inside. No, he's standing next to the food, or the food is already inside the chayma. So it's no shyness for sure. You can't put what's already in Yerushalayim. He has to eat it there. You can't redeem it. Who bifnim? But what's if he's inside masoi bachutz and the fruits are outside? What's the din? And the Gemara Tamalu Ahu Sabat the Rabbi Shimon Yochai. There was one elder that learned this brayso from the basement of Rabbi Shimon Yochai. It says Ki Yirchat Mimcha Amokim. It says if you'll be distant away from Yerushalayim. Mimi Luacha. Mimi Luacha means everything that's with you will be far away. You with everything with you will be far away. Then you can redeem it. Says the Gemara. So over here, it's not b'miluacha. Why is it not b'miluacha? Because he is inside Yerushalayim, and the Ma'aseh Sheni is outside. So it's not rachik. So you cannot redeem the Ma'aseh Sheni. You have to bring it inside Yerushalayim. What's if he was? It's not b'miluacha. B'miluacha means it's on you. You're holding it. What's if you weren't holding it? It was on a stick. And the fruits were in the back of the stick. Is that like a hefsek? Says you want to take you. Tishbi, is it part of you or not? Take you. When does Ma'aseh Sheni become holy? That if you eat it outside Yerushalayim, you're going to be chayiv. That once it enters, the Ma'aseh Sheni enters inside the walls of Yerushalayim, and then it goes outside Yerushalayim. Somebody who eats it outside of Yerushalayim will get malchus. My time, what's the reason? Because it says in the Pasuk, and it teaches us there's a mitzvah to eat Ma'aseh Sheni Lefnei Hashem Aleikacha, which means in Yerushalayim. And it says in the Pasuk that there's a isa to eat Bisharecha, which means outside Yerushalayim. Wherever there was Lefnei Hashem Aleikacha Teichlanu, that once there was already the mitzvah that it was in Yerushalayim and you were supposed to eat it. Lefnei Hashem Elokecha. So karina beit loisuchal b'ach v'sharecha. If you take it out, it's found the isa of loisuchal. But as long as it didn't enter in the walls of Yerushalayim, that you could say it was lefnei Hashem Elokecha. So loy karina beit loisuchal b'ach v'sharecha. So the isa of eating ma'aser sheni is not yet chal. Because it never yet entered the ma'aser sheni, never entered Yerushalayim. So therefore he's not going to get malchus. The isa of eating it outside, he's not going to get malchus. Okay, we'll stop it.